Righty ho. Just getting things set up at my end. We'll start with the webinar shortly. Just making sure everything's running smooth. Getting a sound check on the YouTube. To make sure that we are all good to go. Got a couple of people jumping on now. Just get started in a couple of minutes. We've got the chat. If you just pop your questions in the chat, if you've got anything in particular that you wanna ask, I'll be checking the chat throughout the stream, and then just answering those either at the end. Yeah, either answering the questions at the end, or if appropriate, we'll answer them during the webinar. For in a particular section, I think it's appropriate to kind of answer it then. Then we'll answer it then. So, you got a few people jumped on. Might just wait a little bit longer. Yes, Rachel. We will be recording this, so it will be available on YouTube after the event goes live. So it's a great thing. We basically do these through YouTube, and then that's obviously just reposited on YouTube for anyone that wants to go back and rewatch the video, or anyone that missed it, they can obviously go and watch it right from the start. Obviously, those that are rewatching it can't do the Q&A stuff, but they can always come and talk to us later. So, all right, got a few people jumped on. Probably just kick off in a minute or two. All right, I think we'll get going. There'll be a few people that'll join as we go. Let's get my timer started. All right, thanks for joining us for the webinar. The Cookiepocalypse is nigh, and today hopefully we'll be able to help you all out with understanding a little bit more about what it all means. You've probably seen a lot of emails from Google. You've heard a lot of stuff in kind of the media, etc., about it. So hopefully we'll be able to give you some more information about what is going on with all this stuff happening this year and beyond. So just a little bit about me. I'm Quentin. I'm the founder of Unbound. I've been in advertising and marketing for over 18 years, and most of that has sort of been in the digital marketing space: Google Ads, Google Analytics, etc. Unbound is one of only 20 Google Premier partners in New Zealand. So we're fortunate enough to obviously get the Google tick of approval, and more recently, which is kind of pertinent to this whole cookie conversation, we are also Cookiebot agency partners, and we'll explain a little bit more about what Cookiebot is further in the webinar, and just how that kind of all relates to what's going on here. So, righty ho. Just before we get started, little bit of an ask really. Before we get started, we do these webinars for free. We don't charge for people to come along. We obviously put them up on Google on YouTube, etc., for people to watch back for free. And so one of the asks that we do have is that if you do find value in what we're kind of presenting here, taking value away from the webinar, is that if you can leave us a review. So we've made it quite easy for people. If they want to give us a review, that all they need to do is go to review.unbound.nz, and that takes us through to our Google review page, and you can give us a 5-star review if you found a lot of value in the webinar, and that's just a great way of sharing. So, righty ho. So what we're going to be covering today. So we're going to be looking at, what are cookies first of all. A lot of people might not know what they are, so we're going to sort of talk about what cookies are and how they work for marketing, and then we're also going to cover off the role of cookies in marketing, how they're used, the different types. Then we're going to talk about obviously the privacy concerns, the regulatory changes that have kind of been coming about, and this is kind of really where this whole Cookiepocalypse stems from, and just why these changes are happening, and that they typically have to do with privacy, and then conversely, regulatory changes happening with different different governments, etc. And then we'll go through the impact that this will have on marketers, these changes, what they're going to mean if you're marketing your business, and then obviously what you can do about it. So there are a lot of different things that can help marketers still have effective marketing without cookies. So we'll cover some of those things, and then obviously we've got a Q&A. So if you do have any questions, pop them in the chat. We can either go over those as we're sort of talking about a particular topic if it relates to that, or we'll cover those at the end. We'll just kind of do a bit of a wrap up and make sure all the questions have been answered by everyone. And then we've got a little section there about how we can help at Unbound to get you through this and to make sure that you're still being an effective marketer with the tools that we've got to hand. So this is all going to be a bit of a drinking from a fire hose. So it's going to be a lot to get through, but hopefully you're going to get the pieces out of it that you need to, and then obviously if you do need a hand with some of the more technical stuff, you're gonna reach out to us at Unbound, and we can obviously help you along the way where we can. So what are cookies? I mean, this is probably something that that a lot of you are probably wondering. Maybe you've never really thought about it. They just kind of happen in the background, and you go about your day to day. So cookies effectively, what they are is small pieces of code that kind of on your browser, on your web browser, when you visit a website, and they kind of store that information about your visit, which often they were originally created to make life easy for people going back to websites, that that information would be stored on the website, so they weren't having to start that journey again. So if you kind of think about it like you add something to to your shopping cart, and then you kind of go away from the site, and you come back the next day, and there's still items in your shopping cart. So that's kind of an example of how a cookie works in that context, where it's storing the information of like who you are, your browser that you've got, your ID as a person browsing the internet, and then obviously stored the information that you've actually put some items in your cart or on your wish list or whatever it is. So when you continue that journey, it's obviously like, okay, we know where you left off. we've got these cookies that are in the browser. So there is a little bit of a difference in the types of cookies that are used. So there are first party cookies, there's second party cookies, and there's third party cookies. We're pretty much just going to be covering the first party cookies and third party cookies. And the real difference is, so those first party cookies are the ones, that I just talked about, where you go to a website and they're stored, on that website, and obviously they can do things like, if you add something to the cart, come back a couple of days, it's still going to be there. So that's a first party cookie. Where a third party cookie is obviously transmitting that data about the user journey to a third party. So in many instances, that's going to be like, Google Analytics, or Meta, the Meta Pixel, or what Google Ads, whatever it might be. So if you are visiting sites, the data collected from these Google, Meta, etc., can be sort of brought in from the different sites, and then obviously they can create personalized ad targeting, and the like, and that's really where the changes are coming into play, where there's a privacy concern around the third party cookies, and that's really the change that's been happening over the years, which we'll go into in a minute, around you know uh, technology companies moving away from third party cookies as a way of collecting and storing data. So the role of cookies in marketing. So it's obviously evolved from those early days where obviously cookies were used to do things like saving the contents of the basket. Now they've become um, used in a lot more different ways, especially around sort of advertising, remarketing, conversion tracking, used in Google Analytics, the Metapixel, etc. So they've become very useful for marketers to look at the user journeys and using it for ad targeting, etc. Um, for customers. And this obviously allows a lot more personalized advertising in many ways. Again, if you visit a site, you go leave that site and then go away and get some retargeting. That's obviously a great use of like personalizing the advertising for that customer that might not have purchased. But then for Google, with Google Ads or Metapixel, they can obviously build those audiences based on those different segments, etc., using that third party data to then offer personalized advertising to customers at their end. So as a marketer, we can obviously use those audience that Google's created to look at targeting customers that fit that profile. So just stay on this one for a minute. So why cookies are going away. As I said at the start, a lot of it's got to do with those privacy concerns, and that's obviously leading into governments making those changes in legislation, which again has turned into different browsers making their own changes. So we've sort of seen, in terms of the GDPR as a regulatory change back in 2016, 2018. So that's obviously that regulatory change there, which was stemmed from privacy concerns around the use of data, use of personal data. But then you've got things like Apple's intelligent tracking prevention stuff. So I don't know if you remember a few years back when everyone was freaking out around the Metapixel not tracking. So that's obviously the browser on Apple phones weren't sending that data through to the Metapixel, and so obviously Meta had to find different ways of of getting that data into its system so it could operate its ad platform. But then there are other regulatory frameworks like the California Consumer Privacy Act, so similar to GDPR. Um, and in New Zealand, we have sort of privacy laws with the Privacy Act of 2020, which a lot of these GDPR, CPPA, require explicit consent. The old allow all on the cookie management platform. In New Zealand, it's more around implied consent. So as we were just talking about, cookies have been around for a long time. All the way back as far back as like 1994, where the original cookies were created for the web. But we sort of had people sort of talking around privacy concerns or cookies being unsafe as early as 1997. So it's not something that's kind of come on us, um, you know, as sort of suddenly in the last couple of years. This has been around for a long time where people have been looking at this, and it's only been probably from around 2011 where Federal Trade Commission, the US and the European Union looked at obviously making it sort of illegal to place third party cookies on sites without consent. So so that's up to 2011, and then obviously the Google announcement sort of last year was that they're probably the last cab off the rank, if you will, around some of the changes. Most other browsers around the place have made the changes. So if you think about some of the newer browsers like Brave, have always had blocked third-party cookies. Safari for the last couple of years has been blocking third-party cookies. Firefox, last year started blocking third-party cookies. So Google really is probably the last major one to really basically do away with the third-party cookies. And so they're basically saying Q3 this year, their Chrome browser is obviously going to stop third-party cookies, and they're the largest browser in the world. 66% of all users on the web use Chrome, so that's kind of going to be the large bulk of people not having cookies, third-party cookies on their site. So what's the impact on marketers? Well, the first one is obviously collecting accurate data. So without the third-party cookies, obviously collecting accurate data is going to be going to mean that the effectiveness of campaigns might not be as good, and attributing conversions to the correct sources becomes more challenging. So if you're running Google Analytics, we've sort of seen it in the last little while as a lot of the browsers starting to phase out third party cookies. We are seeing a decline in accuracy of data, some as much as 40%. So that makes it difficult if you're running ad campaigns to actually see what is working and actually how many conversions you are actually getting on those campaigns overall. So it's been challenging to get numbers to match up with work that we're doing. It also around targeting, precision targeting. It makes it harder to target ads to the same level of precision. Because you're not relying on those same methods of Google Ads providing you audiences that you can easily say target these people based on their behavior, because Google isn't going to have that same that same data going into it. They do have some things up their sleeves, which we'll talk about down the road of what you can do about it. But it's just taking a tool off the shelf that we won't be able to use for much longer. There's going to be an increased reliance on first party data. So, first party data is data that you're collecting through your own channels. So think email lists or customer databases, that sort of thing. So, if you're not relying on third party kind of data, a Google audience or a Facebook audience that you can market to, you need to rely on that first party data that you can market to. And there's a degree of privacy compliance. Are you compliant? I talked about the Privacy Act 2020. Most of you are in NZ. If there's any, obviously overseas, then those rules change. If you are marketing overseas, then those rules are obviously gonna change. If you're in Europe, you need to comply with GDPR and DMA, and everything that goes along with it. If you're in the US, obviously it comes under the particular state's privacy law. Like in California, it's CPPA. So it's just making sure that you are compliant, with these different laws as they change, and obviously being very aware of um, how this affects your business, and also how it affects your kind of marketing technology, and how what you can actually do, and if Google is preventing you from collecting data in a certain way if you don't comply, as is the case with the European Union and the DMA that they've just released. And this kind of ties into that consent management platform. I think it really becomes a necessity to be looking at consent management platform, like Cookiebot, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail shortly. But this will just allow you to comply with any privacy laws, and obviously, you know, become sort of standard practice going forward, that you've got a consent management platform that's obviously helping with your approval of your first and third party data as you're collecting it, so that you're complying with the privacy legislation in the particular jurisdiction that you're in. And then just adopting new technology, because it's going to come thick and fast, about how we change to the way the cookieless future looks. And so some of the things that you're going to be sort of hearing more of is contextual advertising, server-side tracking, AI-driven modeling, and even just first-party advertising. How you can use that first-party data to actually target customers or people that are similar to those, and using things like enhanced conversion, modeling, with Google as an example of some of that new technology that's kind of come out in the last few months. So we can't really let the cookie crumble. We need to just embrace this change, and and keep moving forward. So here's kind of the plan to manage the cookie apocalypse. So we're sort of going to be covering each of these and talking about what they mean, and how they're going to help you going forward. And you can probably, sort of just think about, are you using any of these? Which of these are you using? Should you be using these going forward? And often the answer is yes. But often there's a cost to this. So you need to obviously, weigh that up with, the potentials around. So we'll start with these three. So the way that I've been looking at it is that these ideas that we've got here, they're all related, but they're sort of separate in many ways. And I'll sort of talk about this in a little way, because they're not sort of mutually, together in some respects. Like you can do one or the other, but they all kind of paint a tapestry of this general move towards the future. So, and the three kind of different elements is really, privacy, making sure that we're uh, we're applying privacy to what we're doing and the legislation that's out there. That's kind of one thing. So, are we collecting data in a responsible manner? Um, you know, and according to the in New Zealand, the Privacy Act. So that's kind of one thing. It's kind of mutually exclusive, kind of from the rest. And then the next thing is kind of the cookie management platforms and things like consent mode, where that is related to the privacy aspect, but it's also related to its own kind of aspect around data collection for things like analytics. And so if you've got a cookie management platform and it's linking to your analytics platforms and you've got things like consent mode, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail shortly. So that's kind of a technology thing that you need to kind of apply, but it is related to privacy. And then the last one is like server-side tracking. And so for many of you out there, if you've worked with Unbound, we've probably talked about server-side tracking before. When we did a lot of the Google Analytics implementations a couple of years ago, we were recommending to a lot of clients to use server-side tracking because it was going to improve their accuracy. But it's becoming a situation now where if you want accurate data, you need to have server-side tracking. And so that's kind of, again, it's a thread of this whole string, but it's kind of separate from these other two ideas that we're talking about. But they're kind of, again, like I said, they're all interrelated in some way, and that makes it a little bit more complicated in terms of getting your mind around what you need to do with your with your technology and this sort of stuff. So we'll just touch on privacy for a start. So really, this has got to do with like the legislation. What are you doing to be collecting data, on your website, in a safe and responsible manner, and according to the kind of legislation. So obviously, if you're in New Zealand, implied consent is required. So if you go to the Unbound website, you'll see this banner saying that we use cookies, and this is why we're collecting them, and we've got a privacy statement. And then if you just scroll, that banner will disappear. So we've informed you that we're using cookies. That's all you need to do in New Zealand. Where obviously in Europe, there's a much higher requirement. So you need what's called explicit consent. So someone actually needs to tick a box saying, I give you consent to collect cookies. And so this is for first party and third party cookies. So, and how you do that is through a cookie management platform like Cookiebot. So as I said, we've partnered with Cookiebot. We're an agency partner. And so we can offer the service where we can obviously make your website compliant with whatever legislation, is out there. So if you don't have this banner on your website and you're in New Zealand, you're not compliant currently. So you need to be looking at how you can implement this. And getting it could just be this, where you're saying we've got cookies, etc. But the next sort of phase is really all around the consent mode side of things. So the consent mode is a technology within Google Tag Manager, where by having this linking to your tag manager gives consent for different tags from firing. So this was the big change with the European Union, where consent mode version 2 was rolled out by Google, where you needed to have explicit consent before this data was being collected, and if you didn't have consent mode version 2 on your site, then Google would not let you have any personalized advertising at all. So now the danger is that we know that Google could lump lots of businesses in to the same basket, even if it doesn't necessarily apply to them. So I would be kind of cautious around making sure that you comply with this element, because that may obviously restrict your ability to market to customers, to your customers, without it. So again, we can talk in a bit more detail if you want to go one to one and find out what this all means. But effectively, there's a layer that we need to be putting on all websites with a cookie bot, and that's obviously also going to be linking to your Google Tag Manager with this consent mode to active to allow us to collect cookies through the Google platform. And as I said, this is all done through the cookie management platform. So Cookiebot is obviously the one that we've partnered with. There are a number of them out there, but the reason why we went with Cookiebot is that it is actually approved by Google. So there is a list of kind of approved Google cookie management platforms, and so this seemed like the best choice for our customers. Allows us to obviously integrate with Google Tag Manager. Allows us to integrate with the website really easily, and obviously make sure that we're complying with the legislation in the best possible way. So again, if you want to find out more about how the cookie consent mode privacy bit comes into play, happy to have a conversation so that we can sort of show off what it is. But if you just want to, if you've never been to the Unbound website before, head over there, and then obviously you'll see it in action, and how that all sort of works. And then going into a bit more detail with the consent mode. So as I said, this is kind of the thing that GDPR, European Union, has kind of like made a requirement, and all it is when you go to a website and you've hit allow, it's obviously going to allow certain data in the cookies pertaining to sort of analytics and audiences to come through. Obviously, if you go decline, then obviously that data is not going to be collected through those platforms. And then again, moving into server-side tracking, again related but sort of different in terms of how it sort of all fits together. So the very brief kind of overview is currently, client-side tagging. Someone's on the website, the cookie fires, or the analytics tag fires, and sends that data to analytics, Facebook Pixel, whatever it might be. With server-side tagging, there's a bit in the middle where you have an analytics tracking server that captures that data before it sends it to analytics or the Meta Pixel. So Meta call it conversion API. So people, different platforms have different names for it. But effectively it's all the same sort of thing. You've got this tracking server which sort of sits in the middle, and captures this data. And so this can then become first party data because you own the server. Any sessions on this that you're also tracking on the server become first party, as opposed to the client side tagging, which is seen as third party. And so if Google starts prevented cookies on the web browser, then this is the bit where it's having the most effect, because a lot of this data is obviously not going to be coming through, was not going to be as accurate, because you may have people coming back with different sessions to your website, and because it's not linking that that person to those multiple sessions, your data's at the analytics side is not going to be as accurate in terms of um, retargeting or one user with multiple sessions, etc. Where server side, you can obviously look to see that person coming back again, link those sessions in your tracking server, and then pass that data to analytics. So this is kind of how it sort of operates in kind of real terms. So if we're looking at conversion API or enhanced conversions, which is the one that Google has introduced, where it sort of connects that user data to the user, which we can then use for advertising going forward. So that data on the device, on the browser, gets sent to the web server. That then data is then matched to the customer and then sent to the different analytics platforms. So we're sort of talking a little bit about first-party cookies, third-party cookies, and there's also the relationship between first-party data and third-party data. So third-party data is obviously the aggregated data from other sources. So again, if you think about audiences in Google Ads, so that's third-party data. So it's data from a third party that you're using for your marketing, for your advertising. Where first-party data is data that's collected by your organization. So think email lists, CRMs, etc. And obviously these are going to be hugely valuable because you're not having to rely on that third-party data source, which may not be as accurate. And so the thing you can do is you can obviously look at collecting first-party data and making sure that this is kind of the bedrock of your marketing efforts going forward. So ways that you can do this is obviously email signups. So sign up to our email list. You can get their name, email address, more information if you can. Things like loyalty clubs. So if people can give you their details to sign up to a loyalty club to earn points. One of the good ones I see is even just if you've got a website, having the ability for that customer to log into your website to offer that personalized experience. So I kind of see it like on Dick Smith, where you go in there and it pops up with the Google login, where it's like knows that I'm on my Chrome browser, so I can connect with my Google account to Dick Smith, and then that's obviously then connects my email address and obviously that information, previous purchase history from them, etc. In their database. So it's encouraging me to log in to then obviously customize my journey going forward. So the next one, we start getting into some of the kind of advertising things we're doing. So currently we use a lot of contextual advertising at Unbound, where we're sort of currently we use a lot of behavioral advertising at Unbound, where we're looking to show ads to people that are based on their previous browsing experience. So if they're in market for running shoes, they may have visited sites that sell shoes and running shoes, or running related websites, where there's probably going to be a bit of a shift more to contextual advertising, where we look to target people based on placements, website placements, or topic placements that are going to be related to their purchase. So again, putting ads on running sites, or review sites on running shoes, etc., as opposed to people that have been browsing on their browsing websites to find running shoes, which then Google can obviously see and then put them into a bucket that might relate to them. And then we've got advertising using first-party data. So one of the changes that Google's sort of made in their Google Ads interface is introduce something called enhanced conversions for the web. And how it sort of works is if someone signs in to their Google account, and then they obviously click on an ad, they then come through to your website and make a purchase or fill out a form or sign up for your email. That can then be linked to that Google session. So, on your website you've got the sign up form, and Google knows that this is who they are as a Google user, and then that data is then passed through you know hash data, so that's kind of like privacy related, to kind of connect those two, your user and Google's user, so that you can then obviously advertise either to them or to people similar to them that it knows in its database. So it's kind of moving away from just anonymous person user behavior to, we know that they've interacted with our site and we've got some information that we can link back to them in that instance. So this is something we're doing a lot with our current clients. So if they've got contact forms on their websites, or they're purchasing online, we're making sure that this data is being connected to the ad platform like Google Ads or Meta Ads, so that this data can be passed through. I'm going to just touch briefly on this. It's a pretty big topic on its own right, which is customer data platforms. So if you are, if you do have sort of data, in a number of different places or from a number of different sources, it could be useful looking at a customer data platform, because what it can do is you can kind of collect all this data from a number of different sources. So that could be web, or that could be in-store, or that could be sort of your email system, if you're sending out emails and people are interacting with it, or whatever it might be. You're then putting this data into a unified place where it's not sort of siloed in these individual data sources that you've got over here. You can then obviously look to see how you can segment that, or obviously offer some more personalized kind of experiences. And then you can also kind of come out with your kind of communication at the other end. So if you've got data here in terms of your first party data, that you can then create audiences in your kind of social media or online advertising, it basically creates a much more connected customer journey, and again, for people that want to invest in getting their data right, then this is kind of really where you need to be heading in terms of a customer data platform that's going to unify your entire marketing funnel, right from people engaging with you with the data, right through to communicating with them in your marketing efforts. So righty ho. Questions? Who's got any questions? I said it would be very much a fire hose coming through. So let's wait to see if anyone's got something that they want to ask about. If there's anything maybe I covered off quickly that you want me to sort of talk in a little bit more detail about how it sort of works, or if you've got a specific use case, that you're sort of wanting to ask about, more than happy to answer that. Just even just shout out. Let me know where you're from, what your company is, your business is. Oh, thanks for the question, Chris. What sort of timelines do we have to get into compliance? Well, I mean, currently, um, the law in New Zealand is, basically it's the Privacy Act 2020, so it came into effect in 2020, and I guess even unbound without kind of really digging into all this stuff in the last probably 6 months was not compliant to that law. Um, the law is quite clear around what that means. So I'm just jumping back to us to the slide. So the New Zealand Privacy Act 2020 requires your website to know all cookies, trackers, and similar technologies that collect, use, or share personal information from individuals inside New Zealand, and to notify and inform users about this before collection begins, including what kind of data is being collected and for what purposes, with whom you share it. So that's what the law says in New Zealand. And so if you're not kind of complying at the moment, then you're currently in breach of the Privacy Act 2020. Now, I have had a little bit of research, did a little bit of research to see has anyone been, um, you know, um, charged or warned about not being compliant. I couldn't find anything. Um, so yeah, I'd say start now, um, before they start wanting to make an example out of someone. Um, it's even more important if you are advertising in other jurisdictions, because obviously if you have customers in the European Union, you need to comply with their legislation. So there was a case of a Canadian company that was in breach of GDPR that got charged through the European courts. So again, they weren't in the European Union, but they were marketing to customers within the European Union, and they were in breach. So I think it's always the best to comply where you can and as quickly as you can. So anyone else with a question on anything to do with Cookiepocalypse? Is there anything that people have taken away from the webinar that they maybe just want to put in the chat? Just let me know if there's something that I've learned um, while watching. There's a little bit of a delay in terms of my um, me speaking with the actual stream. So obviously I'll be talking, and then there'll be a question will come through, and there'll be a big gap. So that's why there's a few waits, a few pauses. Thanks, Chris. I'll just run through again. Like I said, it was going to be a bit of a fire hose. There's a lot of tech stuff there that is, I mean, even for me, it's really been a case of trying to wrap my head around the different, like I said, the different strands of this, cookies and privacy and and the changes that Google's making. There's a lot going on, so it can be a bit of a fire hose, drinking from a fire hose when it comes to all this stuff. And so it's kind of important to sort of go, here's how we can help um, with you know with everything. And the big one is that, like, we're a Cookiebot agency partner. We can offer a discount on the monthly cost of Cookiebot, because I mean there is a small monthly fee that you need to pay, and again it sort of scales depending on how many pages you've got on your website, how many domains you've got, etc. Um, but so if you are curious about getting compliant with the current privacy legislation, um, in New Zealand or overseas, come and have a chat to us about how we can implement a cookie management platform on your website. And then obviously that also relates to how your kind of analytics is configured. Do we look at obviously helping you set up server side tracking with your analytics, setting up Google Tag Manager with consent mode. Um, are you running Google Ads? We can help set up obviously the enhanced conversions on your Google Ads account. All that sort of goodness that we love doing here at Unbound. And so we can sort of provide that whole solution around your analytics, your cookie management platform, your privacy side of things for your website. And it's really just about helping you kind of step into that future, um, because the last thing that you really want is you're relying on this data, you're relying on your marketing to get a result, and you have that rug pulled out from underneath you as Google starts switching a lot of the stuff off. And so now's the time to sort of get some of this tech kind of configured, and get it working for you. So um, you know jump onto our the link there where you can book a time with us, um, or give us a call, 0800 001 925, where you can book a time with one of the team, to talk through your exact situation. And as I said, like, we do these webinars for free. We try and shove in as much value as possible, for people to kind of take away, to do what they can, give them the knowledge, and often all we ask is really a review, as a kind of a thanks for a job well done, in terms of sharing that knowledge. So hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully there's some way that we can help, and love a review. And you should all probably, hopefully by now, um, um, have our ebook in your inbox if you signed up to this webinar. If you're just catching this on the stream because you saw it go up on LinkedIn or Facebook, and you thought you'd just jump on and watch it, reach out. If you're not signed up on the Eventbrite, reach out and we can send you out the ebook. And it's basically just a lot of the stuff that we've covered in here in the webinar today in a lot more detail, plus a few other little bits and pieces around how you can sort of deal with that cookieless future, um, and kind of get your data sort of doing what it needs to do for your business. So unless there's any other kind of final questions, um, we'll kind of wrap that up from here, and we'll let you get on with your day. Let's give it a couple more minutes. If there's anyone else that has one last thing to say before I cut it off. Just got one of the team giving me feedback on the stream, because I saw I saw Chris there on LinkedIn, and I think he didn't sign up on the Eventbrite. So I know there'll be a few of you out there that didn't sign up on Eventbrite. So again, like I said, if you want the ebook, um, then just flick me an email or reach out. We'll send it through. So I think that's us. I don't think there's any more questions. All a very quiet bunch today, but that's fine. That's fine as long as you're getting some info out of it. Like I said, if you do want to go have a quick one-to-one chat about what this means, just reach out. We're always here to help, and enjoy the rest of your day.